Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show, sponsored by Unibet. This is your Punchestown Day 5 preview, the Saturday at Punchestown Festival, and I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by Johnny Ward very early. I've got him out of bed early. He's not happy about it. It's first thing Friday morning. Apart from being very tired, Johnny, and you got another hard luck story with the punting yesterday as well.
Yeah, I did tip up Indy Bell, but I decided just to take a day off punting. So I kind of just watched it on the couch. It was a long day on Wednesday at Punchestown. I just met some random racegoers, had great fun, and it kind of continued on into the Man City Arsenal game. Had a bet on Man City, which was actually one of the better bets I had throughout the day, and at my age now, hangovers, they take a lot more than 24 hours. So you'll know all about it when you hit 40, George.
I mean, hitting 30 has been bad enough. And then also adding to that, if you ever have a baby, Johnny, you'll learn all about hangovers with a baby, which is something to look forward to. You texted me about half an hour before the race, basically telling me to get on. And then not only did it win, but you tipped up top 4 and it won. And I said, surely you backed it this time. If you've taken the time to message me about it, no, not the case.
Yeah, it's the same with fast or slow on day 2. Yeah, so I think it's time to move on from this conversation, really.
Yes, not making your hangover any better. The great people at Unibet have a brilliant offer for new customers only. It's a welcome offer, money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, plus a £10 casino bonus. Click on the link in the description and you can sign up for a new account if you haven't already got one, and you can make the most of that fantastic welcome offer. But this is the Saturday preview. As is the case, in my mind, and I think it's probably unarguable, the racing on Saturday is the worst of the week. Punchestown, there's some good stuff over at Sandown, but so for that reason, we don't have that many races that are priced up. The 235 being the first of those. It's a cross-country chase. Unibet are paying an extra place in that on 5 races on the day. They're paying an extra place, so do keep your eyes peeled for those. So it's a fifth of 4 for this one. Any view on the cross country, Johnny?
Yeah, I think it's worth having a small bit here on Go Another One, who essentially we haven't seen since running that Punchestown last year behind Ballybooker Bridge in the Latouche Cup, when the saddle slipped on that occasion and he was sent off 7-2 favourite. And John McConnell's had a really good season, George. It's been kind of almost like not a breakthrough season, a really seminal season for him with these flat and jumps horses. And this horse was a good horse as well in terms of a conventional national hunt career. Very, very solid horse as well. Generally tends to give his running. I'm not sure why he hasn't been seen since last year. He's now an 11-year-old, but on the peak of his form, he'd have far more class than the majority of these. And I just think the fact that he returns to this race at this stage of the season will suggest that he will be ready to run well. And Ben Harvey would claim 5 on him, who actually rode him last year when, for much of the race, he shaped quite well. And obviously, you do kind of want horses who do take to this course. But I think it was more a case of, he didn't have an awful lot of experience of the banks, and he didn't shape too badly, in fairness. And as I say, he would have loads of class. His age wouldn't be a barrier at all in this race. And it'd be a small stakes event. But I think he's more than capable of running very well. Knows Stealthy Tom as well. He's going to turn up after being just touched off by Vital Island here, what was yesterday. But this would be, in theory, should be a good bit tougher.
Yeah, go another one. The selection there for Johnny in the first. In the second, we've got the handicap chase over nearly 4 miles, 3 miles 7 furlongs at the 3:10. Again, no prices here as it stands, but again, Unibet paying an extra place. Who should the guys look to use that extra place on, if an each way selection for you?
Yeah, and these races, like kind of high class handicap chases, wouldn't be. I'm not really a massive fan of them in general. I think in terms of betting, you don't tend to have that many horses with anything in hand. And this race kind of follows that. Punchestown on the Saturday, as you mentioned, it is, for me, it's the toughest day. It's become the most popular day for racegoers. It's become a family day, but it's a tough punting day. And especially if you've had a long week, like it might be kind of one just to keep your powder a little bit drier. But in terms of this race, I do kind of like Velvet Elvis, the top horse, who obviously ran in the Aintree National. It's interesting. He was only sent off 25-1 in the national, which in a 40-runner race, with a fairly well fancied like 3 or 4 in the market, he wasn't set off that big of a price. And go back to his run in Fairyhouse in February when he beat Manila Crooner and Augusta Gold. Milan natives in that race who reopposes. That was a very good performance. And Manila Crooner, as much as he's a somewhat frustrating horse, he's a very good horse in his day, and he stayed on very well to win on that occasion. He didn't follow that up when I don't think he was really enjoying dropping back to 2.5 miles at Navan when he was second to Annie Second now, who obviously flopped in the national, but in fairness is a good yardstick. He's only a 7-year-old as well, so he'd be one of the younger horses in this race, and it looks definitely significant that if you send the horse over to entry, the fact that he turns out again would suggest for a race that doesn't have a massive pot, 29.5 grand, you'd think that Tom Gibney must be very happy with them, because it's nothing like the national in fairness, and it was only 2 weeks ago, so the fact he's turned out again is quite significant. I think he has some upside. He'll probably be one of those horses who's ridden quite forward in the race, along with the likes of My Design, stay out of trouble, I think the 16 runners, if they participate, which is far from guaranteed, you'll have your 4 each way places. To mention down at the bottom as well, Emancipator is quite an interesting horse. He's gone up from a mark in the 80s to now 119 and continues to improve. Another horse to consider as well, but right at the other end of the handicap, I do like Velvet Elvis. I think he's capable of winning this.
Velvet Elvis, the one for Johnny, and also it's 5 places, not 4, because you get the extra place. So
lovely.
Velvet Elvis, the selection there for Johnny. We have prices in the 350. The Mayor's Champion Hurdle, where Love Envoy is 15-8, Echoes and Rain and Queensbrook both 4-1, Epatont 6-1, Brandy Love just a bit short in Epatont at 5-1. She Wears It Well 16-1, Anna Bonina 18-1. First kind of high class racing, first grade 1 on the cards. Johnny here, how do you see this?
Yeah, it's quite anomalous here really that we have a mayor's race in Ireland, which actually has gone to the Raiders in recent years. Marie's Rock won it last year, and I think there's a great chance it's going to go to the Raiders again this year. We have Epatont, who was third in the race last year. Obviously, Echoes in Rain, who has been, between flat and jumps races, she's been running very well. I still think she's a horse who sort of needs everything to fall right. I know some people think that she would have won at Fairyhouse when we go back to the Hatton's Grace back earlier in the season when Honeysuckle suffered her first defeat. She fell on that occasion. I'm not so sure she would have won. She was very good at Naas. Then at Cheltenham, she didn't necessarily find a lot behind Honeysuckle, which isn't unlike her. And I really do like Love Envoy here. I think her performance behind Honeysuckle was outstanding. You got to remember, maybe 100 yards to a furlong out, Love Envoy kind of had her measure. Queen's Book was back in third. Brandy Love was back in fifth. Now, I do think Brandy Love is capable of getting closer. She was probably ridden with a bit of exaggerated sort of patience at Cheltenham, but given the way that she hangs in her races, she really should have thrived at Cheltenham. And going back right-handed here, I don't really see why she should reverse the form. And Love Envoy, I mean, what can you say about her? She's been so solid. The one concern is that she was smashed by Brandy Love at Fairyhouse last year, but I think that was a career best from her really at Cheltenham. She battled all the way to the line. Straight away after the race, Harry Foy was saying this is the race that she's going for. Obviously, Johnny Burke doesn't ride today, but Danny Mullins isn't a bad replacement at all. I think she's been a little bit underestimated in the market because, on that form, she simply should win this. And as I say, Brandy Love, really, everything about her, she should be better going the other way. And she has outstanding form claims. She's rated 152, which is ahead of everything else. She almost always seems to give her run, and she's actually for me, she's a raider that I'd be all over this week, and she was one of the bets I put up in the oddschecker anti-post column. I think she's a massive chance and really should win.
On then to the 425, where Unibet are paying an extra place, and Ramirez. At the moment, this is the market prices. Unibet not quite out yet, so do check the Unibet site for their prices. But Ramirez is the 7-2 favourite. Duranmi 6-1, Darva Star 13-2, Phlegmatic 7-1, Champagne Gold and Brideswell Lad 8-1, Percy Warner 10-1, Ballykeel 12-1, Fire Attack 14, same price as Scaria 10, Sam Brown and Must Be Obeyed, Deal Kerr 25-1, Snugsborough Benny 40-1. Johnny.
Yeah, another tough race. Ramilli's, it's hard to believe he was actually running in a maiden hurdle literally just over a year ago. Then went on to Cheltenham where he was, and at Punchestown where he probably just wasn't good enough. To be fair, he's been good over fences. Beat Tenzing at Thurles. Then that form behind the Devil's Coachman. Grandero Bella was a horse that I strongly tipped to run well on the Friday. So we don't know how that's gotten on at the time of recording. The Devil's Coachman is a very good horse. That was obviously quite a controversial race at Naas. It was Paul Townend and Brian Cooper involved in the finish. Ramillies probably rightly was thrown out in the seconds because of interference at the last, and Brian Cooper got away with one of his last winners actually, but it was still a very good performance. He then rocked up at Cheltenham and disappointed, but he's come back here in a race that to me is quite it's kind of hard to be that confident. A lot of these horses disappointed, pulled up or unseated or fell going into this race in their last race. If you look at the Gordon Elliott runners, Gordon's had a very quiet week. He is strongly represented here, but Ramillies looks Paul Townend doesn't ride the race, but he is quite solid. If he can get over that Cheltenham run, he's very, very likely raced. Only an 8-year-old. He does stay very well. He's won at the track. Again, he's a horse that's, for his inexperience, he does jump quite well. There might be a little bit of juice in his mark. It's just a race in which it's so hard to be confident about many of them. He's a tentative pick, and as you say, the each-way angle in the race isn't too bad either. But I wouldn't be having a high stake in it.
Tentative selection only there in the 4:25, but on to the 5 o'clock. The 4-year-old hurdle over 2 miles, and Lossiemouth is the 8-11 favourite ahead of Gala Marceau at 7-2. Zarak the Brave 4-1, Enjoy the Dream 9-1, Nusret 14-1, Cinsa 50, Zirona 80-1, 200-1, Jasabet Cavan, and it feels like we've finally got dead 8 runners. So many of these Punchestown races over the week have been 7-runner affairs. Finally, us each-way thieves can try and find an angle.
Yeah, this is all about the thievery, because I'm just looking at 3 of these horses are going to be probably 50s or bigger. You've an odds-on favourite, so that leaves sort of the other half of the field to pick an each-way selection. And I think there's a lovely each-way make-up to this race. Nusret's a horse I'd respect, but he is held by Blood Destiny, obviously on Fairy House form. He skipped Cheltenham, so he comes here fresh. Lossiemouth should win. As a general rule, I'm not mad on backing odds on shots at Punchestown. Have had a long-ish season, so she obviously should win. But I think there's an obvious each-way angle here, and that is Enjoy the Dream. I was one of the randomers that I met and spent the day with on Wednesday from Limerick. Spoke to Darrell O'Keefe during the week. Yeah, a lot of randomers. But Darrell O'Keefe was very sweet and enjoyed the dream. And I think this horse's story has been great. He came in to Andrew McNamara's yard, somewhat unheard of. Andrew McNamara wouldn't have that many horses. Master Craftsman filly, who came from Germany, and she ran a very nice race behind Simba Le Marin at Goran, but she was sent off 33, still behind Blood Destiny in the Grade 2, subsequently at Fairy House. And really, George, you look at that race, Blood Destiny, who obviously he had a little bit of a proviso after Cheltenham, but I think he bounced back to form. Gust of Wind was only 5-2 in third. Sir Alan, who obviously was well fancied and very unlucky really in the Fred Winter, was fourth. And Cougar, who admittedly has become a bit disappointing, was very good early in the season. So it was a good race. And she really ended up winning going away. She was a big price, but there was no fluke at all about it. She's a lot of pace, this horse. She jumps and travels well. I think if she were with another trainer, she'd be far, far shorter than this, because slamming Blood Destiny, who seemed to return to form, I know Andy really fancied Blood Destiny in the Triumph and he disappointed, but that's exceptional form. She's still very, very likely raced. She's coming here relatively fresh, and I think she's a monster each way value. I'd be really disappointed if she weren't in the first 3 anyway, and let's just hope these each-way thieves can rob something here when we do have the 8 dead runners, because she's probably at the prices the bet of the day for me.
Yeah, I'm sure our friends at Unibet are delighted with our selection there. The each-way thievery, though, always the way to play these dead 8 runners with odds-on favourite, and Enjoy the Dream at 9-1 gives us that opportunity, a decent return running into a place and maybe a chance of upsetting the odds-on favourite. 5:30 now, 3 more races on the card. We've got the handicap hurdle over 2 miles and 3, and Seddon and An Epic Song are the 11-2 joint favourites, with Risk Bell 13-2. 9-1, Horizonto Dairy, Tax for Max, and Green Glory. Heya is 10-1, 11-1 De Shunter, 12-1 Joya Machin and Galore de Sens, and Ballyadam 14-1 bar those.
Yeah, again, fiendishly competitive. Risk Bell's Monbeg Park form, you're gonna have a better idea of that when you listen to this after race and maybe on the Friday. For a 4-year-old filly, that run at Fairy House was really exceptional. She has gotten £7, but you'd have to respect her. She's going to probably go off something like second or third favourite. The Green Glory, there was a bit of word for that horse early in the week that he was going to be laid out for this. I mean, so many of these horses in with the chance. Tax for Max would be good enough to win. Haya as well, who obviously Paul Townend is riding, and then It's What Unites Us. Danny Gilligan claimed the 7. I think he's outstanding value. And to be fair to It's What Unites Us, earlier on in the season, he looked very good, particularly that performance beating Karen Funnock, but maybe a little bit disappointing the last day. An Epic Song, I wonder will the ground be quite soft enough for an Epic Song? Martin Brassel obviously having a very good week. Even the top weight Winter Fog, George, as much as he was a little bit disappointing at Cheltenham, the way he won at Leopardstown, and he's not that long with William Mullins, I certainly wouldn't be dissing him, and Kieran Callahan claiming 7, but I am going to go with Seddon here, another horse trained by John McConnell. I don't generally like horses that are going back from fences over hurdles. This horse looks so well handicapped, and since he's joined John McConnell, third to Nibiru first time out, and then has won 3 races on the bounce very, very easily, one of them over hurdles at Cheltenham back in October. He then switched his attention to fences when he bolted up at Leopardstown at Christmas, and then was quite well fancied despite being a 20-1 shot at Cheltenham, and he was running off 143 that day in the handicap, and again travelled really well, bolted up. Now he's gone back over hurdles off 134. He looks so well handicapped, and he jumps hurdles fine. If he gets into a rhythm, really theoretically, he has to go very, very close here, and it just looks like a good race for him to go to. If you're trying to exploit his hurdle mark, why not go for a 100 grand race, sponsored by a bookmaker as well. So this is a race I think that made sense. Where he goes over fences next, I don't know, because his mark has gone so high. He might have to go into graded company, but given how likely race he is for John McConnell, I think he probably is the horse to beat here.
Often when we do these shows and the tips up a horse, and as we're talking, it goes blue on oddschecker and is clipped in, and we always say they must have bugs in the office. Same thing's happened to you, Johnny. So you got to check the check the wiretaps into 9-2 as we speak. With Unibet Seddon there, so they're clocking on, and probably that suggests that we may not be getting any bigger than 9-2 come Saturday afternoon. But Seddon the selection there to follow up that chase success with the hurdle win here. No prices in the last 2. We've got the bumper in the 605 and a charity race to finish up. Anything to flag up here before we let you get back to bed?
Yeah, it's a very inspiring podcast this morning, but I hope you've had a good Punchestown. I think it's been a good week, to be fair, and some of the bumpers have been, there are a lot of bumpers at Punchestown, but to be fair, there have been some very nice performances. Walk the Warrior here in the Lawless Hotel Naas bumper, very, very interesting horse, brother to Churchstone Warrior, definitely a horse to keep an eye on by Walk in the Park, and loads of these have very interesting pedigrees. Rainbow Trail as well for Gordon Elliott, coming from the point-to-point field, very interesting. And keep an eye out for Roadstone, another horse, Cold in the Mountains for Pat Doyle by Almanzor, who I actually can't remember any National Hunt horse by Almanzor nor bumper horse at this stage, but very interesting pedigree. And then obviously onto the charity race, which we might remember Moscow Flyer winning in some years ago, but very small stakes. Keep an eye out for Cartiers in that, and obviously Cafe Con Leche as well, who was very disappointed the last day, but couldn't really put a bet on in either of those 2 races. The bumper, there's far too many newcomers, don't have prices and all that, but there's plenty of six races before that. I think the best bet's probably in the second half of the card, so enjoy whatever you're on, and I'll be on the TV on Sunday at Sligo, so might have something there, as well as the flat action returns when we start into the new National Hunt season next week.
Make sure you stick on the WhatsApp group, please, when you do. Thank you very much to Johnny for sharing his
Here's what I'm not going to bet today.
This morning. Okay. Exactly. That's normally the way it goes, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing which winners you're not going to back. But thank you, as ever, for taking the time to chat to us and share your tips with us today. Thank you to Unibet for sponsoring the show. Their welcome offer is money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, plus a £10 casino bonus. That's for new customers only. T's and C's to apply. Click on the link below in the description to sign up for a new account. You've got the extra places in the 235, the 310, the 425, the 530, and the 605. Do check out Unibet for all your needs. Do subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find the Oddschecker betting show going forward through into the summer. And as Johnny says, the flat is very much back, and it's always quite surprising how quickly Guineas weekend turns around, but we're nearly there now. So looking forward to chatting to you guys then. We'll speak soon. Enjoy the racing, and please do ensure you're gambling responsibly.